is going to be important too. And then can you pull up some of the comments just so people can see what's been going on? I love that. So that's a good one. So bring it up again. So Natalia a second ago said, branding for me is showing who you are, what you do, and showing yourself to the world. And I really do agree with that. I think that's really important. What about the one under? And the way you position yourself in regards to your market. There's a couple others above that. Strategy to design and elevate your business. And the elevate your business is kind of the point for all of us that are in business. But really, it's not only your business. I think it ends up touching the rest of your life as well. And then what's above that? How do we advertise ourselves? So you notice this little GIF? What do you think of that? John, what do you think of that?
This, I love that. We talked about it yesterday. I'm getting all these, I got to learn how to do the backflip though.
But this isn't a backflip. This isn't a backflip, it's fun. It's something that is niche, right? So we were talking about that. This is something that I've created that I don't think other people are doing, or at least not doing a lot. And so it's just another way that I can leverage this brand to stand out. All right, so I didn't see any contact information being shared in the comments, but what I wanted to say about that is when you share your contact information, I want you to be super strategic about it. So I have two ways today that I share my contact information. One of them is with one of those digital business cards. And the other one is with just asking for a DM on Instagram. Now, why would I do that? Why would I ask for a DM on Instagram? John, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Oh, that's an easy one. You want to connect with them on Instagram.
I think what happens is people get your phone number and then they forget about you.
Yeah. And I think with
if it's
Instagram,
a business card, they throw that away.
Yeah. And I think, with Instagram, it's always going to be on top of mind, right? The moment you DM them, you will show up in their search, in the stories and stuff like that. And really stay connected, right?
That's absolutely it. Most realtors, based on the demographic, and this is something that I've looked at, based on the demographic of realtors, most realtors are on Instagram, right? There are still a slew of them that are moving from Facebook to Instagram. But I had this woman call me earlier today and she was like, oh, I love watching your stories and on Facebook. And I was like, I haven't posted on Facebook in a long time. And it's because she sees them because, Instagram and Facebook, or Facebook owns Instagram. So she's seeing my Facebook stories when I post it on Instagram. So Instagram is still the superior connection opportunity for me. And then as you do that, you show up more in people's stories because the whole point of these platforms is connection.
And you know what, you so right on, because with many people I speak, they always worry about what should I post on Instagram? What is the content's got to look like? But they don't connect with people, right? And these platforms like Facebook and Instagram, they were established for people to connect with each other, right? Through DMs or commenting or liking stuff, whatever the case is. But that is the easiest way, to connect with people. And by the way, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. It's still free. It's still free.
Well, and it's funny because I see all these people posting their Instagram tags. If I ask that question and I don't give any direction, most people are going to put like their phone number or a whole paragraph of information, right? And so that's something to pay attention to when you're in these large meetings and somebody says, hey, share your contact info. Be mindful and strategic about it. That is a brand decision because now you can grow that connection with other people if you use something that you think is valuable to those people you're connecting with.
Or they'll take a photo of their business card and they post it over there. It's like that's
Yeah.
completely useless because you can click on the number, you can save it, right?
Well, or video. So like if you do Instagram, it doesn't matter if the person has an Android or an iPhone. You can send a video message saying, "Hey, it was wonderful to connect with you at this X number summit, and I really liked what you did here or what you said here in this part of our conversation. Let's get together for coffee or let's chat about it if you have 15 minutes next week." And it's a video message that goes in, and people are now seeing you again. It's cementing that memory in their mind. Have you ever read, what's the book, how to win friends and influence people?
Great book. I think
Great
every
book.
salesperson should read that. That should be like one of the first requirements before even getting a license.
I feel like that too, but it's really like, so many people are like, "Oh, I'm bad with names." It's like, no, 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 you're not bad with names. You're not prioritizing remembering that person,
Yeah.
and that hurts. That person is not a priority for you. It's how many people can I get? It's quantity over quality. And so, but that's what we're in this fast-paced environment. So what we need to do is focus on how can we remember that person? And so doing these video messages and making sure we get their contact information, but then using it right away helps enhance that memory of this person. And it's hard. I am not like an example by any means, but it does help us feel more connected as we're moving
Yeah,
along.
and I think, Ian, end of the day, it's really about staying on top of mind, right? Being in front of the customer.
We say that about our clients all the time,
Yeah.
but when's the last time your customer has seen your face after you close? When is
Or
the last time?
they see me on social, but face to face,
They do.
different story.
If
Yeah.
your face is on social, sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes we post these things, it's like 9 bullet points that talk about your house, but you're nowhere to be found. All right, so I'm moving on to the next one. So I want this to be as tactical as we can. I want it to evolve into uh, kind of theory crafting, because we can control the narrative of our brands, and it will be. I feel like your brand is weaved into the fabric of your success, and all realtors need to focus on this moving forward. So if you haven't established a strong brand today, then let's focus on that same thing tomorrow. I'm going to give a great example. This week, I've had 2 conversations with organizations that were asking me to help them build their brand. They're not even in real estate. They just see what I've been doing lately. I'm like, what?
Mhm.
So again, I don't know where that's going to go, but that was never the intent. The intent was to just be better at showing up for the people that I need to show up to. And I also want to be clear. This is really funny, that nobody cares about me swinging nunchucks. But the first thought that I want people to know is I am swinging nunchucks. And it's because now you're going to have that thought in your mind. Even if you don't care at all, you're going to remember that. Or you may remember that. Like, you can say that's weird. That's suspicious. I don't care what you say about it. You're still going to remember, or may remember, that I was doing that. So I added that on, as a little GIF in a GIF in Instagram. And yeah, so I'm going to jump onto this. All right. So this is where it gets to be rapid fire. I see people still sharing their contact information. There was something in the text before we go in there. It says, "I do that all the time," from Kyle, "and do it with offer submissions." Okay. I love that, Kyle. I've done that too. And it is very, very powerful. So short story, I had a listing, and I created a video for the listing that people would see. Well, someone had watched the video, a bunch of buyers had watched the video, and then they would send the offers. The buyer that won the video won the offer, sent a video back. And the sellers were like, "I love this." That's why they chose these people. It had nothing to do with anything else. And it was probably, let's say, 10,000 less than the next best offer. But the first thought was, these are real people. I am super happy to give this house to them.
Which I mean is super important, right? Because you don't want to be just a number on the paper. Like you want to
Right.
be an actual family or a human being on the other side of the table as well, right? So you can connect with the people. So that's great,
Right.
Kyle, that you're doing it. That's awesome.
So yeah, it's phenomenal, man. So yeah, brand is a big word. Everybody, as you notice, thinks about it a little differently. And so the first thing I want to start with is share your definition of a brand, which we've already done. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Type in the chat your favorite person on social media. Don't type me. I'm just kidding. Your favorite person on social media. I'm going to give it like, 10 seconds or something. And this is really important because it might take you a minute to think about it. But we all have people that pop in mind right away. George, Alex Hermosi, that he's one of mine today. And that changes with time, but today I'm really impressed with his cadence of content and how digestible his information is. So for those of you that don't know, Alex Hermosi didn't want to be famous, didn't want to be known for anything. All he was doing was launching these gyms. Like he learned a system to help make gyms profitable. It's like Bar Rescue, but for gyms. And he just went around and started doing that. And then married this woman, Layla Hermosi. And she's like, you need to be crushing it because you're really good at this. And so he started creating an online presence. And now he puts out, I think it's 87 pieces of content a week, something crazy like that. Tessa and Glenda, I don't even know who that is. And now I'm super curious. Like, why is that number one? Tessa and Glenda. Interesting. Unless you're talking about Glenda Abbott or Glenda Baker. Why did I say Glenda Abbott? Yeah, Glenda Baker. Ryan Serhant, great example. So I love these. These are like, think about these people and what it is that draws you to them, because the algorithms know that. That's why you're seeing more of them. Like you saw something of theirs and you were like, ooh, I like that. And the algorithm, they're only designed to feed you more of that information. Oh, my stars. Look, so Holland just said Glenda. So Glenda Baker, she sits this direction and she talks basically to a screen. She's not actually talking to anybody. Sometimes she'll talk to somebody, but you feel like she's talking to somebody and having a conversation. She'll sit right over here and she'll share her story. And then she says, and oh, my stars, would you even believe that X happened? It's absolutely staged, but incredibly perfect. Like that is who she really is, glamorous in person. But she exudes that. She pushes that in her content because that's what people want and people are drawn to it. And she uses a lot of colloquialisms, which is also a very strategic but powerful tactic. I love it.
Yeah, there was a pretty funny comment by Kyle. He said his favorite person is Kyle Shank, on social, but then that is very close to the second. I love it, Kyle.
It's funny because yeah, I mean the algorithms do kind of show you a lot of who you resonate with, and if you resonate with yourself, you're like, man, I just put out this great video. They're going to try to show people like that sometimes. Alex Hermosi, Jay Shetty, that's a good one. I like Jay Shetty.
Yeah, Jay Shetty is great too.
Yep, these are good ones. I love that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
next exercise.
who doesn't love Glenda, right? I mean, we got
Remember,
Glenda
this is
like 4
rapid
times
fire.
over here.
Rapid fire. 3 adjectives to describe yourself. This is almost the only work you have to do for this. 3 adjectives to describe yourself.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shoot it.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is it took everybody way too long. Now, there might be a delay in the streaming, but come on. You have to have something to describe yourself. And if you don't know, I love it. And if you don't know what it is, ask a friend, ask another person who knows you, ask your mom, right? Like, what do these people see in you? And somebody who's going to be super honest with it, right? So, Hanny, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but reliable, funny, resourceful. I love that. I love that. I love that. Energy, happy, positive was by Ram. And so an example is if I said energy was one of mine and I showed up like this and I'm just not feeling it, then I can't claim that, right? Or at least I can't claim it in the moment. Hardworking, disciplined, rational. I'm curious, how do you show hardworking? And this is an open-ended question. How do you show that you're hardworking? My first thought on that, because this is a hard one. I think it's a great adjective, but I think it's challenging because one thing that hardworking means is it looks like consistency, or it looks like staying up late, or it looks like always being on time, and it's different for everybody. So hardworking is that's an interesting one.
And I think, Ian, many times it's a combination of all of those together, right? It's not just
Yeah,
one or the other, I think.
yeah, yeah. Humble, smart, keeping it positive. These are all great. These are all great. Now let's look at your content. This is I feel like if someone takes a look at their, let's start with Instagram, and you look at your Instagram page, does your section of posts and reels say, I'm humble? And this is rhetorical. You don't have to answer this one, but think about that, right? Think about the message that you're sending out to the world. If it's, hey, I did this and I did this, does that convey humility? If you are talking about divisive subjects like politics or religion, again, I don't care who does what or what people believe or think. I just want to be helpful as much as I can to most people, right? Well, if you start posting that kind of divisive content, is that positive? You know? So as you're looking at your different social media channels and your pages, I want you to internalize these adjectives that you think you are and compare them to the reality of what you're sharing with the world. And this should be a moment of introspection or a
Yeah.
moment of reflection, because I am pretty sure that 90% of realtors they don't match their adjectives, how they feel they are, with what their brand showcases on social media.
And I
And
mean,
that,
Ian, this is huge, man. I think you just hit the nail on the head. And I know you said you are still working on being yourself. And I know most people, including myself, right? I have a problem really figuring it out on a deeper level. Like, who is JT really? And that's changing
yeah.
too over time. But what are some of the tips and things people can do to kind of really discover of who they are or what they think who they should be to help them with that?
Well, I think it starts with you have to know where you come from in order to know where you're going. So this is a great baseline. You've written down the things that you want to be or to show up as. Now you're looking at the reality of the situation and you're
Mhm.
saying, I feel like I'm determined, intuitive, and kind. Does that show up to the world as me being intuitive, kind, or determined? And it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely something to think about, right? And then to answer your question, which later is a future slide, but ultimately you want to find people or resources that fit that. Like your favorite social media people probably fit the adjectives that you want for yourself. Now, how can you emulate that level of energy, that level of positivity, that level of quirkiness? Glenda Baker, it's kind of quirky. Colloquialisms are quirky. You're like, what? Oh my stars! There aren't even any stars in the sky. You're drawn and attracted to that because that's what you want to be, really. So I think that's a good first step, which we've already taken. We've identified people that we really enjoy watching. We've identified the things that matter a lot to us as we show up in the world, or at least what we think we are. But also our brands evolved. I might want to shift from being hardworking to creative, because hardworking is great when I'm 19 and I just want to, climb the ladder and show that I will work 90 hours a week. Where creative is, I find solutions to problems that can save me time and maybe money. And maybe I can do that for my clients as well, right? Because that creativity translates. It should transcend industry. But again, everybody's different. Everybody has different thoughts on what they want to show up as. All right. So, and I think one way to do this, like I said, look at your profile. Another thing, I don't know if anybody's done this, but if you go to Google and you go to incognito mode, so on this browser, you go to the top and you would choose new incognito window. That is how you show up to the world when they're searching for you online. Many people just go into Google and they start typing themselves and then they're like, oh, okay, well, I look good. It's like, yeah, but how do you look to other people? Because that's how you look to yourself. Google already figured you out and they're going to show you the things about yourself that they want you to see. What do other people see? So I recommend that everybody does that in their browser, goes to incognito mode and looks at themselves. You don't have to do it right this second. And then we talked about the profiles. What do your profiles look like? And then your real estate website. I think that one's pretty interesting and again, often overlooked. Man, I went to some realtor's website last week trying to get her contact information, and it was absolutely the worst site that I had ever seen. And I'm thinking, the thing is, ever since 1996, businesses were expected to show up as looking professional online. And I don't care if she's sold $100 million last year. That's fine. Nobody's going to remember that. Right? Does what you're showing up as, because this is part of your legacy, right? Does your website look and feel and fit your brand? I know it's a little thing.
But what about, Ian, if I'm a private person? Like, I do love to serve real estate, and I know brand is kind of important, but I really don't want to put my life out there.
Yeah, that goes back to exactly what Alex Hermosi said. And Sharon, so the president of Real Broker, he said this, one of his podcasts, he said, it's easier to be effective if you're famous. So no matter what it is that you do in this world, whatever you're put here to do and do well, the more people that know about it, if you're good at it, the more people that know about it, the more impact you can have for your family, for yourself, for your friends, and for your clients. So that is only an excuse.
And I think many times it's probably the self-talk, the pep talk, which we have with ourselves about ourselves and about the branding itself, right?
It's rough because everyone feels a certain way when they're presenting themselves on a platform. Like even on this video, I've said like 9 things and I'm like, I wish I didn't say it that way, but I'm just moving along. Because
I think we are the most critical of ourselves at the same time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're having a conversation with the client and you don't know the answer, what do you say? Right? Talk about humility. If you think you're humble, well, then you say, I don't know. Right? Like I have no idea, but I can get that information for you. That's the same thing if you're putting yourself out on social. People know that you're not going to start off really good at whether it's a video or these posts, or people know that. But people are drawn to humanity and personality. And so that's you anyway. So you might as well share that. I know it's easier said than done, but it all comes back
I think it's kind of like saying, when your character doesn't align with the opportunity, or Tom Ferry, he always says if the behavior is not aligned, with the goals, right? So you can say you want to be someone, but are you actually really want to be that person? Because if you want to be that person, there's some baggage which comes with it, right? Pluses, minuses, the whole thing, I think.
Well, yeah, it is. It's all together. Your brand, I mean, one way to look at it is it's how you show up to the world. So questions you can ask as you're looking through your Google, as you're looking through your websites and all these different platforms, you can ask yourself, is it easy to find information about you or reach out to you if you were a client? Or is it hard? Is it difficult? Do all your profiles and your adjectives feel aligned? Does your TikTok show that you're hardworking? because that's how people are seeing it, whether or not you're intending it to be that way. What are some other ones? Humble. We talked about that. Like, is the information you're putting out, is it sharing how you take care of your clients? Is it sharing how many families that you've been able to help that were struggling or on the fence with being able to buy a house and they barely made it, but you made one change? You ended up shopping an insurance policy, and that extra $20 was the difference between them getting a house and them not getting a house. Like, that's powerful stuff for clients. But a lot of us, me included, a lot of us want to show up one way to the clients and another way to the realtors of the world. It's like, and I
And
think
don't you
really,
think sometimes, Ian, it's like it's the fear of losing that business. So even if you're working with a client and you're like, well, the guy doesn't have really the right values, which I'm kind of aligned with, but you still want to work it because like you don't want to lose that business and vice versa, right? That's when you really misalign with yourself, and it doesn't feel right to begin with, too.
yeah, it doesn't feel right. You're selling your soul. And again, there are people that are ultra successful and they're fine with that. And that's, they can do
That's
them.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, like, we've got these corporations that are buying houses up so that people can't. It hurts. They'll building whole neighborhoods, 5,000 houses that'll only ever be rentals. That's just the reality of the world. But are you going to be that person, right? Like, what is it that you're trying to do for the world around you? That's a really good question. Do you take things you're passionate about and build your brand around that? 100%. There is a theory I have that most of what we do exists in kind of tribal communities. And so an example is, I know that I have, let's say, 15 tribes that I belong to. One of the tribes is mountain biking. If I see a mountain bike video or see somebody with a bike, I'm going to go talk to them. One of my tribes is shoes. One of my tribes is computers, because I'm a nerd and I like building my computers. One of my tribes is Real Broker, because whoever it is that has aligned with that brokerage, we think similarly in some aspect, right? T-shirts. We've talked about this, John. I created my own T-shirt brand because now I feel like the T-shirts talk to people in a different way. So all of these things, they're all tribes. And where I'm going with that is that becomes like, now I'm in a drop shipping circle. Like, I'm in a whole circle of creatives that are building apparel. That brings me in a different world. So yeah, I have puppies. I didn't even want puppies. My wife wanted puppies, and she was going to get, I'm always going to say, get whatever you're going to get. I just don't want to be part of it. Right. Well, now I'm at the dog park running around with these puppies, but that gives me another tribe, because how many people don't like puppies? Like, and it's not that I didn't like them. I just didn't want the responsibility, but that's so important. Yeah. Ram, he mentioned crypto. I have a fair amount of crypto investments, NFTs. I love it. I don't talk about it right now because the people that don't get it are only going to hate on it. And that's okay. But that's a tribe for me. So yes, I think understanding your tribes, but remembering that your tribe is not always going to build your real estate business, but it can help. So an example is there are people that go viral on social media for something like, this one woman, she went viral because her parents were struggling and they went through a divorce, and she was just sharing her feelings. That video went crazy viral, millions of views. And then when she posts something about real estate, 300 views.
Crickets,
right? And it's not because she's a different person. It's because that wasn't her brand. And she changed it. And people are like, what? That's not what I expected when I came to your channel. So, yeah, I would say be careful with that, but do incorporate it. So that's why I try to leverage my stories for stuff like that. Like any type of workouts that I do, I put on there, right? Music that I like, I put on there. Yeah. So Daryl talks about video games with his branding. You know what's interesting about that? That's definitely a gaming great for anybody who knows. But the people that don't know, they just think I'm a nerd and build computers. Fine. what's cool about that is you can edit your videos in a style. One of my biggest clients was actually a pro gamer, a pro streamer. And let me just say, she bought a house and didn't even touch her actual capability when she spent millions on a home. Like, that's how powerful these gamers are in this world. But you can edit your videos to that style, and I almost guarantee that more people that are interested, or more people that are in that tribe, you'll become a magnet for those types of people. Fitness, moms, veterans, we see it all the time. And we all have these board game nights. I've got board game nights. I used to do bad movie nights. We did themed potlucks for locations. And so we would go to someone's house, and we would each host at a different time, and we would choose a cuisine. So like one day or 1 month we would choose French, and we would all show up at this house, and we would each bring a dish from like a French dish. And most of us made it. Some of us bought it, but it was all a French dish, and it created these organic, deep conversations. And then you start learning more about where people are from. And that's something you can do at your community center, and never even have to, like, you don't have to know these people, right? If you're at a church, you can do it at your church. It doesn't matter where you are. You can make this happen. You can do this with other realtors that you want to connect with in your area. A lot of us have coffee meetups, and that's generic. It's easy, but it's not great, right? Unless you really love coffee. It's a good start, but it's not always a deep conversation generator.
And I think it's not different, right? It's not outside the box. Like, the dog walks. I think that's a little outside the box because people like dogs, but maybe people not doing it as much
Right.
in a group, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the real estate, within the real estate community.
Every time I see people sharing stories with their dogs, I'm like, oh, okay, you have a doodle too. Or, whatever the dog is. It's like, oh, I never knew that. I've known you for 9 years. I never knew you had one of those or cared at all.
Yeah.
And it's because people aren't being true. They're not actually sharing their lives. And don't get me wrong. This is like, you remember the Truman Show years ago, where he was being followed around with a camera? And you're like, that's what life is today. Either you want to be part of it or you don't. And that's absolutely a choice. So I just wanted to give a quick example. So think about the colors that you're using. Notice on TikTok, all of my covers, when I do put a cover, are exactly the same. So my idea here is I want to show up as how would I say this? Like, I want people to understand that I know about money and real estate, but I exude, brightness, energy, empathy, that kind of stuff. And so I try to use emojis wherever I can, even though they kind of went out of style for a little while. I still think it's fun, and I like it. I like seeing it because it allows me to put an emotion in a text that otherwise wouldn't be there. I align my intent. I think or do you really, is a question, do you align your intent? Does it look similar across the board? And just think about how you're showing up. On almost every, if I'm doing a home tour, for example, I'm going to use this to kind of share this theory when I'm doing my content. For example, if I'm walking through a house, I start off showing my face, and then I move away from my face. To me, that's really important because people get to see who I am, and then I get out of my own way because they're not there for me. They're there for the house. And so then as I'm walking through the house, I try to add story elements that help with either, connecting about life or connecting with some things like my shoes. I'll always show my shoes in something because I like them, right? If other people like them, I've had people walk up to me and say, oh, are those R.E.A.C.H? I was like, they are. I didn't even know what they were a week before that. But now, now it's a conversation coming out of nowhere. You were going to say something, John. Sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, now you got the dual camera on Instagram, right, for the stories? So you can see yourself and you can also, show the home. Do you think that's a good idea to use it instead of just the hands-free?
I was on Android for many years, and I just moved to iPhone, or added an iPhone to my repertoire. And Android
we made you a believer.
No, I'm not a believer, but it's had that that feature for a long time. Now Snapchat has it, Instagram has it, all of these phones and platforms have it. So what John's talking about is you can use both the rear camera and the front facing camera at the same time. Here's what I would recommend. I think that is a fantastic idea. The videos that I used that in a year ago, 2 years ago, worked really well. Today, I think because they added those features, it would work even better if you're using it in the platform. So yeah, I do. But remember, they're not there for you. You want to show up, you want to be seen, but they're not there for you. So you don't want your face to be the big part and the house to be the small part when you're using that feature, right? At least not right away. If you have 1 million followers, you can do whatever the heck you want at that point, because it's just about the algorithm showing a lot of people, at that point, once you're a high level influencer.
And so, Ian, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes when it comes to branding?
Not understanding your target audience, not understanding, and also not understanding what you're putting out. So when I say your target audience, I'm not sure where people are in their journey, but if I ask you, so John, if I ask you who your ideal client is, what do you tell me?
Investor.
Okay, investor is a big word. Are they investing in single family residences, multifamily? Are they investing in commercial complexes? Is it an institutional investor that just wants to buy 100 houses from you in an entire new construction neighborhood, right? Is it a conglomerate? Like there's so much when you say
Specific
investor.
area
Yeah.
specific as well.
Oh my
right?
gosh. Yeah. What area? What's the criteria they're looking for? Do you understand cap rate? Do you understand like what the rent rolls are? Like all of that. Like that's investors, a very easy word. So I think when a lot of people try to craft their brand, they're not going deep enough in it. And so I think I had shown when I was teaching the class in Real Academy about branding, one of the things I talked about is I knew that that the person watching me on YouTube was probably 35 to 44, usually leaned toward women, that worked at either a local tech firm or a tech firm outside of Austin. So like California, for example, they made 100,000 plus a year. And like, this is what the platforms are telling me, not who I was targeting. It's just who was drawn to watching the content that I was putting out. And I thought that was really cool. Looking for a single family residence, usually somewhere like Cedar Park. Like that's just what it was. Or there were a few for South, and it's so cool to see that.
So, what do you think is the number one thing every agent should do when it comes to branding?
Well, so I wasn't even at I wasn't even at the last slide, but I'm getting there. So what I want people to think about, and this is a little morbid, but I used to listen to Tim Ferriss podcasts a lot, and he ended his podcast with a question, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite things. And he said, "What do you want on your tombstone?" Right, which really translates to how do you want people to remember you, and is that aligned with the brand that you want to craft? Right? If you want to be remembered as a realtor who only sold, $5 million houses or above, I mean, that's fine. But as humans, we don't connect with that. We don't remember that. Like, I don't remember people for what houses they sold. That might help short-term in business, but that's not relationship. That's not driving relationships. So what is it that is driving the relationships and the connections with these people? And what is it that I want them to remember about me? So the next thing is the locus of control. There are some things that you can control and some that you can't, right? You can control the area you live in, but some people are so, invested in that area because they've got family or kids or whatever, then they can't. Okay, well, if you can't control that, what can you control? You can control the content that you put out related to that area. You can control the people that you're collaborating with. That's huge. You can talk about all the cities around your city, right? You can compare cities. You can talk about neighborhoods. You can talk about the things that are working and the things that don't. So there's a lot there. I remember reading a book called Crucial Conversations. I actually did a workshop on it. And the big takeaway for me was people pass 11 judgments in 7 seconds. So when you're meeting somebody and you're seeing somebody speak, you're meeting your client for the first time, or they're watching your content, they're already judging you whether they want to or not. It's just innate. It's ingrained within us. And they're passing a lot of judgments. So controlling that is in your internal locus of control. You can change what people see and hear and think about you at first. Then you just have to follow it up.
And I mean,
So
you know,
how do you
if
create
someone
that
won't like
infinite-
you, and also I think, Ian, if someone won't like you and you just not align, you know, because of the values or vision, whatever it is just what it is, right?
Mm-hmm. I see Ram, he posted, how do you treat other people? How you treat other people. This is a really good one. You do obviously want to treat people well, but you never get to treat people well if they never become your client. And if they make these snap judgments on your character because of what they see or what they think about you, you never make it that far, or rarely make it that far. So in
Yeah.
order for you to treat other people well, then you have to get to the point where all these people that you want to treat well are seeing you for you. So,
So
and
it's 2:59. We're gonna
sorry,
go a little over. I think it's all right.
sorry about that. No, this is the last slide. I just wanted to be really kind of share some things that I thought would help people craft their brand. So the first thing is, notice when I say I'm Ian of Austin, it's on all social. Across the board, I'm Ian of Austin. That was an intentional branding decision because it incorporates my location. How many times have you run into a realtor, they give you a business card or give you something, you have no idea where they're at? So there's that. It's the same across everywhere because it's really hard to try to keep track of all these people and all their names and all this stuff. Try to make it one thing. If you can go back and do it, wonderful. If you can't and you're already moving along, then create one of those little short links that, short code business cards that links to everything else. If you have any questions, you can feel free to DM me on Instagram. I feel like if you want to collab on something, I will make the time to collab on something in 2023. And I created this one-page brand sheet. If you send me a video message on Instagram, I will work on sending you that brand sheet in the next couple days. Has to be an Instagram video message asking for it. And then fist bump,
It has to be Instagram. What about Facebook? If somebody wants to message you on Facebook.
I mean, that doesn't fit the criteria, right? I got to be very specific. You can reach out to me on Facebook, but no, I feel like Instagram right now is where my focus is. And so that's where I'm targeting my traffic at the moment because I hadn't grown it. I didn't put enough time into it earlier. That's the reality of it. You can only be so many places.
I love it. So any questions, guys? Just drop it in the comment. Get us a closer look over here. So I got a question, Ian. What do you think is the number one thing every agent should do? Like the easy one, just to start with.
The easiest thing is identifying who you love to work with in every capacity and as deep as you can go. And this doesn't mean so if you've already been established in business, think about the people that you have loved to work with, your favorite transactions and why. And then if you haven't done this, I would probably have coffee with 20 agents and ask them that, like what has been your favorite transaction and why, and what's your worst transaction, and then decide where you want to go from there. Because you don't know who you want to work with if you haven't already built a little bit of a business. You just think you want to work with the people that are easy. What the heck does easy mean, right? Like you said, investors earlier, investors are not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the type of investor, but
Easy
generally,
for me, but maybe not easy for everybody, right?
because
Like,
you resonate with
yeah,
them, right?
yeah,
But yeah, when you're dealing with high level investors or commercial, you lose the relationship. Like
yeah, right on.
they don't care about you at all. They care about the numbers. And so if
Numbers.
you can't deal well in that world, then you probably want to be in a different world.
You shouldn't be there to begin with. Yeah. Rem was asking, what was the book that you recommended? And actually, that
I think
was
I said
my
a
one of
few of
my
them.
questions as well. But any
Was
good
it?
book when it comes to branding? I know you said How to Influence People,
Oh yeah,
right?
How to
How
Win
to
Friends and
Influence
Influence
Friends.
People, which sounds
Yep.
kind of weird, but just take the nuggets from like the book itself. The concept of the book is good, and it's one of those any business books. I think I said Crucial Conversations. That's great for sellers. I think it's great for team leaders, business owners.
Hmm.
And then I read one called, I think it's 92 or 93 Ways to Talk to Anyone. And I think that's good because that's where I got the idea for like my hat or shirt, something that it generates conversation without me having to open my mouth because I'm naturally pretty quiet. Like I don't need to go out and be the center of attention. I just, I like to sit back, chill, watch movies.
Curious, what are the most expensive lessons when it comes to branding?
Spending money when you don't know what kind of brand you want to create. You're just spending money saying, create a brand for me, and you've got this person that's going out. They're going to ask you, well, what colors do you want? I don't know. I like red. Well, red is alarming for a lot of people, right? Do you want to align with your brokerage? Then if you align with your brokerage and then something changes, well, what happens there? Like there's all sorts of things. Are you building a brand under someone else that doesn't help you build your own brand later? Like there's so many variables in there. I think really taking the time to think about your brand before spending money on your brand will help with what I think is a really big mistake.
That's great. So, guys, it was so good to see you, Ian. We got to do this again. This was so good.
I
Got to
hope
do
that
this
it was
again.
helpful. I
Yeah.
hope that was helpful. If it was helpful, what would we say? Send a DM on Instagram.
DM on Instagram. Yeah.
Say that was awesome. Thanks. Right. And if you don't know my Instagram, I failed. I failed at branding, for crying out loud. And then also thank you, John, for having me on. I think this was
Anytime.
something that
Anytime.
people need. People want to know. It's
Yeah.
one of those fundamental staples of any real estate business.
And I think really for me, it boiled down to knowing yourself
Mm.
and really putting yourself as being the brand.
Yeah. Or, I mean, people can hide behind the brand, like another brand. They don't have to be the brand, especially if they're building a big team or something. That's fine. You still have to strategize and understand what that brand is going to accomplish, what that brand wants to look like, what it feels like, because
Yeah.
that's how everybody makes their decisions based on what they feel.
Daryl put a book in 93 Ways to Talk to Anyone. There
Yeah,
you go.
that's the one. That's a good one. I mean, it's a little old lady that writes it, and but it's again, there are a few nuggets in there. I was like, oh, that's good. Oh my God, I'll never forget that. That's good. So there are a few of those out of the 92. There might be 5 for me. There might be 90 for you. So it's
Good
a
enough.
short, easy read too.
Good. So sounds good, guy. Stay tuned. We'll see you next Tuesday. Ian, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. Peace
Love
out,
it.
guys.
Thanks.
Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
everyone for watching.